Hi, my name is Kim McCoy, live in Tukwila. Listen to both you guys. And one of the questions I have is, how can we persuade the larger electorate to vote with more brains?
So vote Republican.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I got to say, because I've seen this cycle. I saw the bottom hit in L.A. You may not have to. You know, on another issue, like, the I-16 Tacoma Narrows Bridge rebuild, you might have to talk to your friends and convince them that, you know, trucks need to get to Gig Harbor faster or whatever. Not this issue, because every one of you has either had something stolen or whatever, or what about the thing about grandparents raising their grandkids? Out there, who knows somebody doing that or who's doing that themselves? You know what's going on. And that, I hate to say it, but that's why I always say it has to hit bottom to rebuild. And this is probably getting more people registered on that retail issue of, my car got broken in, where do I vote?
We all know people who don't seem to realize what's going on, or at least accept it until it happens to them. And I've been saying this a lot. When it happens to an individual or someone you know, all of a sudden your mind starts to shift. And that's an unfortunate reality, that they have to go through some kind of crime or experience homelessness and drug use in their community to a point where it shifts their mind. But you're right. I mean, we don't have to do as much. But I would say this, to your point, connect dots for people in your life, because I don't think local media does a great job of connecting dots. It's transactional. Here's what happened. Here's where it happened and when. Thank you and good night. They don't actually tell you why.
And you know, they're clearing out this gigantic homeless encampment in Phoenix right now, in spite of the Boise versus, Ninth Circuit Court decision from a couple of years ago that said you can't clear them out unless you offer them a bed. Well, in Phoenix, that led to thousands of people living in this one area in the hottest city in America, homeless, so they had to provide cooling stations and all that. Then one day, somebody found a born, dead, burned baby in a dumpster. And Phoenix said, that's not normal. And they got to that point, and this is, Arizona is not bright red, but it's red enough that people said immediately, okay, that's because of that. Because you're tolerating these drug addicts living together in tents. One of them wanted fentanyl more than a baby and killed it after birth. And so they're clearing that out. I don't want to report that news in Seattle. You know, they had to report that news in Portland, San Francisco, and that's why my daughter and I left LA. I don't want that here. I'm glad that this, electorate and remember, they closed out the session and they didn't do that business. There was enough people that talked to their, local representative and state senator and said, whoa, job not done. Get back there.
Producer Max, who is next?
Hi. Speaking of connecting the dots, you have had an excellent group of people come in. There are some that it would be lovely to be able to contact, and it would be nice to have a list of your guests and a contact information, because there's a couple of them that I thought, what can I do to help? But by the time you get through all of these people, and I wouldn't know,
I'm sure.
and C 2 hours later.
Yeah, and not to sound dismissive, and I don't mean it this way, but you can Google this. And I say that in the sense of, we have to all be a little bit more proactive, right? And I think it's sometimes a chore, but I find, especially on the hyper-local level, your direct representative, for the most part, they're going to respond.
Some of the names I don't remember.
We'll get you that.
Sheriff of Pierce County. But no, by the way, I urge you all, if anyone stood out, email them tomorrow and say, quick note, saw you at that amazing KTTH event.
And again, point out,
appreciate you coming out.
So many of them are Democrats. And I think that, a lot of times we will just automatically dismiss a Democrat because we don't ideologically align with them most of the time. But there was a lot of stuff that was said tonight by Dana Ralph, Cassie Franklin, Jared Mead, that I think all of us would agree with. Thank you.
And they wouldn't even show up here. Just think of what it would take a Democrat to come here. Do you ever think you're going to see Pramila Jayapal here? You ever think we're gonna invite her anyway?
I did. So I invited Yasmin Trudeau, who's the senator from Tacoma, and she pretended to be interested. And her staff responded saying, "Yeah, give us some more information." I gave it to them. They ghosted me. I got an email back yesterday saying, "We're going to have to pass, but we would really appreciate it if you can invite us to the next one." So shout out to our Democrats who actually came down.
Jason, I'd like to thank you very much for your very public stance on getting trained with your first firearm.
Thank you.
My question is, leftist politicians know what the results of their policies for years are. They're not stupid. Therefore, if they know what these policies are doing, what do the two of you think the objective of these far leftists are?
Well, the far leftists are pretty open about what they want to do, right? I mean, they talk about it all the time. They want to dismantle systems of oppression in which they view pretty much every system that doesn't already lead very far to the left. I think that they are toxic to our brand of politics in this state. And I think they seek to disrupt. They like the chaos, and then they like to mold whatever it is they just broke into an image that ideologically they can get behind.
And that they want to disarm us, let's just get there right now. They want to disarm you, and my gun never grew legs and killed anyone, and it's not going to commit violence, and that's, you're trying to commit violence on me, and I'm holding it. But here in Washington, I promise you, I'll die on Mount Firearm, because I saw that in California, and it's literally one of the reasons we left, so.
Hi, my name is Catherine, and I would like to, let you know that I truly appreciate the information that you have given us tonight.
Thank you.
The one thing that I want to know is when either you, Jason, or you, Bryan, are going to go for the governorship.
Take your seat.
Oh, no.
Take your
Don't
Hard
dismiss
pass.
me.
Hard pass.
No, come on.
Oh,
come
I
on.
just have zero.
We
I like
need
yelling at
people like
politicians.
you.
I don't want to get yelled at.
We need people like you.
Thank you.
All right.
That's why I'm in talk radio, because I don't have to compromise with anyone. I just hit the mic and I'm like, okay, pee break. There's my hot take, made my point.
All right. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for everything you guys did today. This was amazing. I just set up in the nosebleed section, but I still heard everything. But I actually am the newly appointed King County Director of Communications and BIPOC Engagement for Republican candidate Governor Simony Byrd, who's a veteran Marine and a career American. And I also wanted to say thank you so much for having Dana Ralph's. She was amazing. I actually experienced homelessness a few years ago in her city, and she directly reached out to me and made sure I had resources. So thank you for having such an amazing person on your panel. But my question for you today is, what 3 traits or passions do you believe that the next governor of Washington State should possess in order to bring unity and turn this Titanic of Washington State around?
Because this is a purple state, and that's sad, and it's slightly more blue than purple. Number one, you have to get them to vote for you. You can't be a farmer from Ritzville, driving in on a pickup and saying, guns, gods, and guts, made the state of Washington. It did 50 years ago, but this is 2023, and we are overrun with Californians. I'm sorry for that. But you have to make common sense. So number one, common sense. That's why I always say, when everything else is done on the West Coast, common sense is last to bat. So you have to be that common sense. You have to make that point, and you have to say, this is why common sense is my number one trait as whatever party you are. And I think number two, you have to be from here, to be honest. Because you can move to California and be mayor, be governor, whatever. But here, this is still a place, in many ways like Oregon, where you got to have roots here. You got to say, well, by golly, growing up in Squim as a wolf, you have to have that backstory. Because we had a guy in Monroe who ran for mayor, and he had just moved from like Fullerton or Alameda, some suburb of San Francisco, and he came up to me and he said, yeah, they do a lot of things here. We left California because of blah, 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 blah. They do a bunch of things wrong here. And I said, you know what? Take a deep breath, take 5 years, and then come back. But do not come here from California and say, let me tell you what's wrong with your state. Because it's like, you left that crap hole, bro. You know, and that is a serious thing, is to have roots here. And then number 3, I don't have it. Here's Jason with number 3.
I feel like Jason has it.
Well, I liked what you just, you're not going to like my answer, if I'm being totally blunt. For governor, we're going to have to start looking at moderate Democrats. That's the truth. And so,
They're out there, by the way.
they are. Mark Mullet is going to announce that he's running for governor, and I'm a fan of his. I like Semi. I don't think he can win at this point. Now, if we get a Republican who actually can win and they're polling well, and again, that's outside of Ritzville. It has to be in King County where they can pull in a number of votes. Until we do that, I don't like wasting my energy to lose, especially given the fact that right now we're going to have a whole bunch of offices open at the state level
And it
that
really,
are winnable.
it's at that grunt blue collar level too.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know a little secret. We all knew Carlson was going to lose. We knew it. No matter what he said, that Republican wasn't going to win. Nicest guy in the world. You know, the line forms here to love the guy, but he wasn't going to win because he didn't connect with the blue people in Bremerton and the
I
blue
choose
people in
you
Grace Harbor.
in mornings.
What's that?
I choose you in mornings. So we're running very late. Let's try to get
No,
a
thank
few
you
more
so much
questions.
for
Thank
that.
you.
We love
Appreciate
a David
it.
and Goliath scenario, so thank you for your vote of confidence, you guys. Appreciate it.
Jason, Bryan, thank you for organizing this event and being here. It's been very wonderful to have you and listen to you, as I do every day and every morning. So my question for you is, you know, I hear from a lot of local Republican elected officials and whatnot, that if you see an issue in your area, your neighborhood, you know, run for an office and do that. And so I was upset about the school district that is in my area, and so I ran for school board. But, you know, when we talk about crime...
Did you win?
No.
Didn't I interview you?
You did? Yeah.
Lose the hat.
2021. Yeah. So, you know, as we look at something like crime, you know, you could run for sheriff unless you're in King County. But what can you really do about crime? Because you can't really run for sheriff unless you're a police officer. And
Policy has been behind so much of the crime. And so if you're able to get in a position of power, you can change policy. And that doesn't always mean that you run for something. You're going to be able to make an impact.
Shoot criminals. Yeah, there's no Narcan for a 300 blackout, so. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
2 more questions.
Good evening. I have a comment and a question. My comment is, I think during the Obama administration, people greatly underestimated kind of his organizing, community organizing, and just all the seeds he planted that I think we're seeing come to fruition in a lot of ways, in the way that the left has been able to coordinate really effectively from a ground up. And one of the things that happened in 2020 and 2021 is I suddenly started watching King County Council meetings and the King County Housing Authority and Health Board meetings. And you can tell by the attendance level that people are not engaged or interested. And the little thing that happened with Mark Downs, I think it was, or the King County Housing Authority in the Zoom. These little gems happen all the time that are happening. And I would be on some of these meetings seeing this like, okay, I'm like, one of maybe 5 people paying attention. And it was sort of like, where is everyone and why aren't they paying attention? And if there was a way to, this is my question, I guess, if there was a way to network where people are paying attention or watching and then informing about when these things happen. I know it's starting to come out with social media and stuff like that, but this has been happening for years. And they're really things that are detrimental to us knowing and understanding. So if there's a way to network, that'd be awesome.
First of all, I'm glad I'm not the only one who suffers through those videos, so thank you for joining me. The truth is, there's plenty of networking going on at both the state and county levels. You connect with your local Republican county group, and they can help you with all of this. They have email lists that go out. They tell you when things are happening. There are also community organizations, various ones depending on where you're living, that do exactly the same thing. But the other truth is, you're going to have to do some research yourself. I mean, they post everything online, agendas. And when you see something that's important, that's being discussed, how many people are you telling about? telling that this is happening? How many people are you sending the link to? But everyone has to do that.
Yeah.
Everyone has to do that because it's difficult to show up to a meeting at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. You're working, right? So
And they count on that.
yeah, exactly.
And also, I don't want you all to turn into 14-year-old girls, but if you don't have Instagram, whatever, but if you do, there's a couple different feeds that highlight the excesses of the homeless. And one of them is Seattle Looks Like SHXT, right? It's terrific. And they will repost one from Portland called WTF, whatever that stands, Portland. WTF Portland, right? And it's crazy because if you know how to grab those and then put them on your Facebook page so your grandkids or whoever can see them, they're not political, they're shocking. And you say, that's where I live. That's Tacoma, that's Olympia. Olympia is the biggest city close to me. You never see what's going on there. The biggest homeless camp is between Lacey and Olympia on both sides of I-5. And they're stabbing and killing each other left and right. But get involved in social media, let other people populate that stuff, repost it.
But also do it yourself if you're able to safely get video and photos.
Yeah.
That's what moves the needle for a lot of people.
And half of it is like the red light in Portland sticking their camera out.
Yeah.
But that shocks people into action, and then they do it too. And I'm Bryan Does Junk on Instagram, by the way. I do junk.
My name is Ken Blevins. I'm from Federal Way. I started stand-up Federal Way a couple of years ago during the pandemic.
I think I interviewed you too.
Yes, you did. And just ended up seeing a homeless drug addiction problem in front of me. I didn't know what the heck it was until I ran into it and talked to people and realized they're addicts, not homeless. Just figured out we'd try to get rid of the homeless out of Federal Way. It doesn't work out like that. Found out that King County is working against us. Seattle's sending them down here. The state's making laws that are regionalizing homelessness. And we ended up getting political. We showed up to the council meetings. We basically replaced all the loud people that were for all this harm reduction and all this other crap that we're getting. And we were the loud people. We changed things a lot. We went out and we voted in a new council, which changed the whole landscape there. But we realized that they were still working against us at the state level, and we got our butts kicked this last time. We won our council, but we got our butts kicked. So hopefully we'll be able to do some kind of ballot harvesting and actually get our state back, because that's how we're winning.
You should.
Yeah.
We have to embrace it's perfectly legal, and it's silly that we're not doing it and letting Democrats do it.
Yeah, we don't know how to do it. We didn't know what it was, but we put out over 30,000 mailers at the door to talk to people, and most people agreed with us, but we just didn't get the votes. So that's what it was. We worked real hard. You just can't give up. Show up to your council, people. My question is different from this, is why can't we get these mayors to basically, or the county or someone, all these hotels that they've bought already, they're housing people and they're not focusing on addiction. Why can't they just take that first level and remodel it? She said, oh, it's going to take decades to put all these hospitals out there. It's not. We already have the housing. We got them in there. Let's just start arresting people, take the people out of there, let them break the law to get on their drugs, arrest them, put them back in there with a doctor or mental health and all that stuff. They can stay there for a year, year and a half, get well, get them jobs and so on, and end this thing in the next 10 years, not wait 10 years to do something. So what's stopping us from doing that?
What's stopping us are the people who are in charge and making these decisions. They are hardcore advocates of harm reduction, which means they're not pushing treatment. We played audio on both of our shows today, actually, of a Seattle activist who flat out said, we're for bodily autonomy for the drug user. We don't want to stigmatize them, which is essentially what their position is.
Who are we to judge? And if you don't know, if this has never been in your life, what's going on right now with the Chinese fentanyl is, because I had this discussion with a colleague on a different station, and I was telling him, they love the fentanyl, they love the heroin more than their own kid. And he said, well, I had an aunt who was an addict and she never stopped loving us. And I said, you know why? Because you weren't between her and her heroin. That's why. And you have to understand, they won't go in that hotel with the counseling and the, soft hot rock massage and all that you want. They would rather stay there in their filth, in the tent, getting high, in between stealing mountain bikes. And I've tangentially talked about this on the air, but I'll tell you guys, what blew up my marriage, and I was married to a very high functioning, brilliant person, an Issaquah cop. She became addicted to heroin because she had chronic pain. She didn't tell me. She lied for years and years and years. And then one day there was fentanyl in the heroin. And then one day she loved that shot more than her beautiful, brilliant 10-year-old daughter. So I had to make a choice to either be the chairman of the committee to save a marriage or be the chairman of the committee to save a 10-year-old girl and raise her into a functioning human. And I chose the latter. And that's why I'm back here. Now, it really is the only choice. And you know, we wish her well, but we haven't heard, we don't even know if she's alive. It was 2 years ago. But seeing the power of that, it blew me away. I couldn't believe I didn't see it for so long because addicts just lie. That's all they do. And that was 20 years ago when it was just heroin. With this stuff here, they will let it, you know, well, if you tell them, well, okay, watch out, this new stuff has trank and it'll kill your body from the inside out. They're like, yeah, but I can get high, right? Okay. And they have lost all agency. And that's why the most compassionate thing is a psych hold, is a sentence to put them in Western State and staff Western State. And the numbers say only 10% of them rehab. Okay. The other 90%, you know, I don't know what to say.
Very, very, very quickly.
It was very quick. Miss Tucker, miss seeing you on there.
Thank you. I miss it too. So a few months ago, I was going to make the big reveal for the book on that show, and then it happened. But now I'm going to do it with Harris in a couple weeks, so I am still excited. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming out. We're always just in awe of the audience that comes to see us, and we're grateful for the ones who just, it is getting late. And we're grateful for all your listenership. We're going to meet you guys out in the lobby for some photos if you would like. And we look forward to seeing you at the next Freedom Series.